And welcome to a special episode of I Heart Geek. Yeah, these are fun. I get to meet somebody new today, and I'm excited about it. But because this is the connection through Satomi, I'm dubbed Satomi. Satomi, do you want to do our introduction, please?
I would love to do our introduction because this person is not new to me, but he is very dear to me. Ladies and gentlemen, today in our virtual studio, we have Mr. John Painz. And I'm going to look at my list because I can't remember all the things that he does.
Everything.
Because he does everything.
I saw his IMDb. He does everything.
Everything. He is a producer, director, screenwriter, cinematographer, editor, actor. He's an award winner. He's a photographer. He's a geek rock star. And now he is an author whose debut novel, Blue Upstate, is being released today as we are recording this episode. And I'm so excited to have him on the show. Welcome, John.
Yay!
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you for joining us today, John. We appreciate it.
No, listen, this is great. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, just don't ever go into podcasting because you do everything. I feel like you'd take that over too, and there wouldn't be any market left for us.
We'd have to be guests on your podcast.
I'm gonna just go by the John Painz podcast URL
right now.
I should not have admitted that. Dang it!
Shouldn't have said anything.
Dang it!
I'll give you the 10% of nothing that I do.
That's about what you get from us too, so it works.
All right.
Cool.
So I think what I want to hit first is you have a book that's releasing today. I know marketing for a book is the hardest thing in the world, harder than a movie or anything else. Tell us about your book first off. What is it about? I got to skim through a lot of it, but it's pretty cool.
What is it? So it follows, I don't have an elevator pitch, which is just awful because I'm just terrible at them. And people are like, hey, what's your movie about it?
You fit in with us
I
then.
have no idea. There's a person in it and she's great. That's it. That's as far as I go. And so, sorry, I'm going to get too close to the mic here. Blue Upstate is about these two guys who end up working for the mob, the Queens mob, by just strange circumstances, and they end up becoming these problem solvers for them. And they try really hard not to be, to stay away from violence and stuff because there are easier ways to fix problems. And all of a sudden they get wrapped up in this money laundering thing. And if I say too much, I'm gonna
give it away.
But they've got to work together to get a friend of. So it's Hal and this guy John, and Hal's buddy ends up running this scheme for the mob, and then they want to kill him in the end. And so Hal and John have got to save him, this guy Alex and his family.
So is this like an action adventure type book?
So it's a crime action comedy. I mean, there's funny parts in it, but there's also a lot of violence, so I don't want to say that it's fun, kind of, but then all these people die and it's awful, but it's funny, and
Well, I didn't want to skim it because I do love to read when I have time to, and I have started the book, and I've started getting into the meat of it. And one of the things that I love, I'm already knowing that I can highly recommend this book. A, because I'm familiar with your work. B, because already reading this, it's such a suck you inner kind of novel. Your characters are hilarious, are so human, and that's where so much of that hilarity comes from. And what I love is because you're a filmmaker, it reads like a film that's in your head. You can already see people need to start optioning this book now. Actually, maybe we can talk later. Not that I would know what to do with it, but I've heard that's the way
thing.
You make money in Hollywood.
Says the person from New York. It's awesome.
Well, yeah, originally from California. But it is it's already a delight from page one, and it just reads as smart and intelligent, but it's also a very easy.
Yeah.
Easy is the wrong word, but you can take it in and you can be in that world right away. And I think that's one of the things that I love about how you write, because you write with such scope. These worlds are so fleshed out. So, for instance, Blue Upstate already has two. It's a trilogy, correct?
So
Or
it was originally supposed to be a trilogy, and I wrote the second book, and it ended up being way too long, and so I broke that up into 2 books. So right now it's 4 books, but I just started the fourth, and if it goes the route of the second, then it'll be 5 books. But it depends.
So it's
Yeah,
like
I mean,
it's like a Harry Potter. It's like it's one book, but it's split into 2 parts.
yeah. I just when I first started writing, I tried to figure out what the sweet spot word count was for crime books, and it was
Mhm.
somewhere between 90 and 110 and 110,000. And the first draft ended up coming in at just under 90,000. I was like, oh, this is perfect. This is great. And then I handed it off to a beta reader who gave me some great advice. And it ended up adding another 60,000 words to the
Whew.
book. And so I was like, 150,000 is good. I got to keep it there. But then book 2 just blew up because the story, so much had to be explained. And it takes place directly after the first book, so you're building on that, and then the new adventure, and then you're setting up for potential sequels and all. So it was a lot. And after I wrote it, I was like, nobody's going to read it. An 800-page book by this guy. I mean, my friends aren't even going to read it. And so it's like I was like, oh, let's cut it into smaller
Bite-sized
smaller
portions.
books, and so it just ended up working that it could do that, because the second book ends off on a nice cliffhanger, and then it goes straight into
Yeah.
book 3. So.
And not for nothing, but we know a lot of voice actors that would love to do an audiobook of this. Just FYI, just saying, talk to me later on that. We have some people.
I did. I got a podcast who does a Writer Wednesday, where they share 2 minutes of a writer reading an excerpt of their book, and so I was lucky enough to get onto this this podcast, and so I had to sit here and read 2 minutes of my book, and it's summer, and I had to close all the windows, so I'm sitting over here, and as I'm reading it, my face is drenched, and I keep screwing up the lines, and then I'm missing words as I'm reading it. I'm like, what's wrong? What the hell's wrong with me? So
heat exhaustion.
It was so bizarre.
It is. That's why a lot of writers don't read their own books when they do that, because it's a different skill set.
Yeah,
it's stressful.
And I'm also trying to just get to as I'm vocalizing it, I'm just trying to get to the point. And then I'm like, wait, the way that I said that, maybe that's how I should have written it. And I was like, no, forget it. I can't go down this road.
Editing.
Oh my, it's just awful.
Oh God. Now, how is writing a book in your experience? This is actually sort of a 2-pronged question. A, how is it different from writing a film, or an episodic, which you've also written? But also, didn't this start out as a project where you were writing live? Didn't you live stream writing?
No, that was a different script, and that was okay. Specifically for COVID. I was like, I need to. I had just gotten in August of 2019, I hurt my back, and so in December of that year, I had surgery, and then COVID hit. So I had been in bed for 8 months or whatever it was, and I was like, I need to do something, and so I started writing a script on stream that was about a virus, and I was just like, just because this is what we're living, why not just have some fun with it? And so I wrote a comedy drama about that, and people being locked down in an apartment building that
None
with
of
a
us know
much
what that's like.
worse,
No.
with a much worse virus. So, but yeah, um, writing I mean, writing a script is you're getting to the point of whatever you want your audience to see very quickly. I
Yeah.
mean, because your page count reads as your runtime, and so you don't want to bog down your script with a lot of description. You just want to get to
The
the
point.
Yeah, and so writing a book is Blue Upstate was originally a screenplay, and um, I'm reading the script and I'm like, all right, this is where I can start, and then I'm like, holy cow, I really have to explain everything so that the reader has a clear idea of what
Mm-hmm.
is happening, and then your character development is for me it was mostly in dialogue, and so then now all of a sudden every moment has its own pace and humor and action, and so then you don't want to be over expositional, and I mean it's night and day, and so it was once I started, I couldn't stop writing.
Yeah.
I mean that happens with scripts too. I write first drafts very very quickly, and uh, the first draft of the book was it was maybe 3 months um, of solid writing, and this was pre-pandemic. This was pre-back problem and everything. We were attempting to make a movie called See You Next Week, and tried to do a fundraising campaign for it, and it failed spectacularly.
It happens a lot.
Yeah, this was like like Hindenburg. And so after and the film was cast, and we found our locations, and things were amazing. We were really this was going to be the follow up to the second movie that we made, and it was just terrible. And so my girlfriend was like, I was in a bad spot, and so my girlfriend was like, well, why don't you just write a novel? I'm like, yeah. No, I'll just write a novel. Yeah, I'll just do
so
that.
easy.
And she's like, take one of your old screenplays. And I was like, this is so stupid. And so the next day I started writing the book, and I couldn't, I just couldn't stop, because there was a wide open creative, like building a new universe.
Yeah.
And that's just, it's just exciting.
So let me ask you, as a writer, because you're saying you have to go back to these works after you've done this like great stream of consciousness, how do you put your brain back in that world?
By rereading what you wrote, it actually came very very quickly. I do. I have a iPod with a playlist of all of the music that I concoct scenes to.
Wait, I have to back you up for a second.
Yeah.
You have an iPod?
Hell yeah! And
I have a Discman. Shut up.
Let me see. Yeah, so there's 73 tracks here. That's awesome. There's 73 tracks in there that all pertain to a different scene that was in my head. For the actually not for the first book, but for the second and the third and the fourth books.
Is that chicken egg question?
Yeah.
Do you kind of have a feel for what the scene is, and then you find the song, or does the song just start playing in your head when you're thinking about what happens?
Yeah, song starts playing, and then I'm just like, oh, and it's just it's a music video in your head. It's not dialogue, it's action, or it's some inciting incident or something, and all of a sudden the music fits the beats of the pace of the scene, and then you just, I mean, there's there's some playlists on there that are so old from books and movie ideas, that I've listened to 1,000 times, and then all of a sudden I'll have taken a break from it and listen again, and I'll think of a better way to fix the scene. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's primarily how I like. The second book started off as a teaser trailer for a television show. So I'd always pictured Blue Upstate and the other books to be a series. But the second book, I listened to Imagine Dragons' Believer,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden I had the beginning and end of the book two, which is 2 and 3, already mapped out. And I mean, I don't know how that happened, but I listened to it on loop over and over again.
That
And
is
all of a sudden,
amazing how that works.
it was crazy. And so once I have a beginning and an end, I just start writing, because then everything in the middle, I just it comes as I'm writing. So there's no plotting or anything like that.
It sounds like it comes very natural to you.
I don't know why, but I mean it does. But I couldn't tell you why. I
Yeah.
know people struggle with this a lot, and I do struggle with it. I mean, I've had the fourth book open in front of me for a while, and I know where I want everything, but I haven't. Really.
You haven't found the right song yet.
Maybe.
Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to move away from books for a second.
Sure.
And I want to, the thing actually that impressed me the most with all this stuff that when I went through, when I did my Google search for you, was your Instagram. Your eye is, and I usually hate Instagram photos 90% of the time. Tell me, look at your Instagram. I won't, because I don't like it. What you do is amazing.
Yeah.
It really, you feel like you're looking at a classical piece that you would see in a museum. And this isn't blowing smoke up your butt. This is, you just have just a really, I want to say bizarre eye. It is just, and it just hits you in a really weird place.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to actually kind of learn a little bit about how do you find these shots? Because I mean, it's just like a skyscraper. I'm like, okay, it's a skyscraper, but you just do something that's so fascinating when I look at it.
Honest, so when I used to do cinematography stuff, it was always looking for the best way to shoot something, both economically and stylistically, especially if we didn't have time for, And so just as you're, like a buddy of mine, while we were shooting Four Bottles, so the cinematographer who was shooting the film we made, Four Bottles, would look at the skyline or windows or whatever, and he would point them out, and he'd be like, look at the lighting. And then he would try and tell me how you would recreate that if it wasn't naturally happening. I've just found that fascinating. So then I started looking at things a little differently. And when I came upon a scene that just happened to have would be perfectly framed, I'd take a couple of photos and see what I could do with it with the app and everything. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's mostly luck, to be honest. I don't set out to find these things, and I just have my phone with me all the time. And so, I haven't taken many photos over the last year and a half or so. But before that, I was taking, whenever I left the house, I was taking photos. And so if I got one out of 50 shots over the course of a day that worked, yeah. But that's what you want. I mean, they're not all going to be great, but you get that one, and it's awesome.
I think, I own a couple of your pieces, and I think something that makes it so special, because there are all of these online, let me teach you how to take great photographs courses out there, and everybody's an artist with their iPhone right now. However, There is a level. Yeah, I know.
I sound so snobby right now. I know.
No,
But yeah.
massive air quotes in everybody is an artist, because everybody can take a great picture, but I think it's because it is filtered through the eye of John Painz. Um, there is an element. First of all, there's an element of you in there, and there's to me, there's always been something that's been um, just so attractive about you and about your energy and about the way you see the world. And when you shoot and the pictures that come out without sticking it in your face, which I think a lot of people try to do.
Yeah.
Every shot that you choose tells a story, and it's one that is malleable enough that it can be deeply personal to whoever is looking at it in their own way. Like, it leaves enough of a window where I mean, like the pieces that I own, it's like I instantly could start just babbling a story to you about what is happening in that photo or what has happened in that place before. And that's something that I don't think can be taught.
Yeah.
That's where we're talking intrinsic talent. That's where we're talking something that's coming from like the soul of the person who's behind the lens. So listeners, if you get a chance, I do recommend that you check out his Insta, and those shots are available for purchase. John did not ask me to say any of this. I am saying it because I just truly I know that he's an incredibly gifted artist. I mean, it's ridiculous. I want to smack him sometimes because it's like, you write like a monster. You know, his screenplays. I've had the privilege of reading some of his other screenplays, and especially for our geek rock stars out there, we need to put it out in the universe. There's one particular series it's a massive multi-million-dollar sci-fi, like, I can't even say like otherworld extravaganza that needs to be seen.
And this will get sent to me. I want to read this.
I'll send her so that you can send it. It's called Black Tie.
That.
I think that's what you're talking about, the difference between. I know, not the Dream Bureau.
Oh gosh.
Is it
it was Black Tie that I was referencing. But then there was another one that was also there.
There's a couple.
John is also prolific, and I have yet to read a script that I wasn't like, I would like to be in this. I know there's not a part for me in every single one, but you know, I will play.
But you'll make one.
The floor lamp on the left because this is so stinking good. So
you play a good floor lamp. So
thank you.
You're welcome.
I will shine for you.
I know you. Oh,
I can play a goat.
Can you play a goat?
Daddy. I'm sorry, what? I'm a horrible person, I know. So yeah, you are really prolific would be the right word. It seems like everything that you do, you excel at it. And I'm a little jealous. And as I say, you know, we haven't met each other before, and you know, I got to learn about you from a Google search and from Satomi telling me. But you seem like you've taken the artistry to everything that you do. Is this just something you're born with? Have you just spent so much time in cinematography that you're a good director, that you're a good cinematography with the photography, or the writing?
As an actor,
is that what tells the story?
And a director.
How? I mean,
he was
it all
nominated.
seems like it really flows well together.
You're so excited.
I really am.
Up the mic. What did that mic ever do to you, Deb?
I don't know. That's very flattering. Thank you. But I don't.
I didn't mean to embarrass you. I apologize if I did.
I don't know how to answer that question.
Well, instead of the why don't we talk about some of your projects that have garnered some attention?
Sure.
So, for instance, 5 a.m. one, which, and I'm unfortunately, I don't know why I didn't write it down. Which award did 5 a.m. win?
No, I don't think it was just the first thing that we did. It didn't win anything.
It's really cool, by the way. It's a short about clones.
Yeah. No, that was just a, a lot of fun. Yeah, we got into the Soho Film Festival, which was nice. We got into Hoboken. And then shortly after, I thought, hey, I peaked and I'm just going to quit. Because, you know,
Wait, that was
really, yeah.
That was your first, was that your, or was that one or 8 for Vegas really the first?
So 8 for Vegas
project?
Was our first, Julie Sisson and my, our first project. It was a web series that we did about a pool league. And then I shot a project for this guy, Stephen Bittrich, called Off, about Off Broadway productions. And then he put me in touch with this guy, Mark Palmieri, who
I know that name.
Oh yeah?
Yes, I don't know why, but I know that name.
And he and I and a bunch of other people made a web series called The Thing. And while we were making The Thing, I had all this camera equipment and I wasn't using it. And I was like, I gotta make something with this. And so I was living in a different apartment, and I said, I need to make the most complicated short film that I can make just by myself. And so the clone idea came about. And so, you know, I set up the camera and filmed myself, and then I'd have to look at the footage to see how out of focus it was in. And then Julie came in and helped me with a couple of scenes, and then yeah, we got into a couple of film festivals, which was great.
It's very cool. It's very cool.
Yeah,
and then of course
it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And then of course you and I met on Untitled Zombie Project.
Yeah, because of Kelly Grant.
And I need to see that one.
Yeah.
That one is delightful. That was a pilot for what would be a reality TV in a not quite post-apocalyptic. It's like we've had
so it's a mockumentary, and I love mockumentaries.
It's a mockumentary.
It's definitely a mockumentary.
Exactly. And
there's not really zombies.
No, they're definitely zombies. Yeah.
But
it's about a producer director team who has an idea for a TV show where a group of people live in a house that's surrounded by zombies, and they have to survive for 30 days, and then they win prize money. It was such a fun, like it could have done really well, but you know, it just didn't go anywhere.
Is that up anywhere?
Yeah, it's on my Vimeo. It's on my Vimeo page. Yeah, and so the running joke is that in this world, zombie entertainment is at such a high that there are no more titles that they can use, and so it's called Untitled Zombie Project because they can't find a title. And so yeah, it was a lot of fun. But yeah, I had met Kelly in 2011 or so, or I saw her in a short play, or 2012, and I had cast her in a part in Zombie Project, and I said, I need a person for this, and it's got to be funny and the comedic timing and all. And she said, well, Satomi Hoffman, who I work with, and that's how we met.
That's how we met.
Aww.
And I was fortunate enough to go on to be in his next 2 film projects. The first was Stuck, which was nominated, where John was nominated for Best Actor at the Soho International Film Festival, and he also received the Carbon Award for the Most Creative Filmmaker.
Yeah, that was a bit of a shock. So,
and that's a wonderful feel good film. Do you want to tell us a little bit about Stuck?
Sure. So Stuck is about this guy who has agoraphobia, and he hasn't left his home in 2 years. After a mugging, and his wife ends up getting killed. So he's a wreck, and he doesn't leave the house. And,
but it's funny.
It is funny. I mean, I know. It's so stupid to say it
I was like all down. I'm like, I'm waiting for a downer movie.
But I mean, you know, it's like, it's about this. We're way past the tragedy part. You know, it still affects him, but it's still a problem. And he gets a new therapist who challenges him to leave his house in 30 days. And so it's that 30 days, that's the that arc of the film.
It's
And
delightful.
yeah, no, it was a lot of fun to make. You know, we had no money, and we shot it for $7,000, and yeah, I didn't have, you know, I hadn't originally wanted to play the lead, but we couldn't afford to pay anybody, and it was being shot in my apartment. And the character is me because I suffered with agoraphobia for about a year, and so I just decided to play the part. But yeah, it was great. It was a lot of fun.
It was awesome. And it was awesome to be a part of. And then, of course,
Well, you were great.
I want to
Well,
hit the
thank
4
you.
bottles. I gotta skim through
Okay.
that today.
Well, let's talk 4 bottles real quick, which was the Audience
Sure.
Choice Award winner of the Art of Brooklyn Film Festival.
Yep.
So now this one went a very different direction than Stuck.
Yeah, well, you know, we had a little bit more money, but also Julie and I had been passing a bunch of articles back and forth about the disparity of strong female leads, and I thought, well, you know, we should just do that. And so I wrote out the script, the first draft, in I had come up with the idea while we were shooting pickups for Stuck, and I was with Galit Sperling, who played the wife in Stuck, and Vicky, who was our assistant. We were driving out to Coney Island to do these pickups, and I said, you know, I've got this idea, and it's called. And writing for budget, you're kind of like, how do I make this? I mean, obviously, how do I make this the cheapest I can make it, but also not bore the audience? And Stuck being contained is, you know, is a different kind of movie. You can only do that. You can really only do that once. And so I was trying to figure out how to make a unique comedy drama with very little money. Mm-hmm. And so I'd come up with an idea where this person goes to 4 different apartments and drinks, you know, from 4 different, you know, bottles, and so 4 bottles, and that's all I had. And I said, you know, to Galit, because she had a role in Zombie Project, and she had a role in Stuck, and she had no lines, and I was like, I got to get you some, you know, some lines, because I know you're a great actress. And so I wrote the first draft in 2 days, and this was about the time that I had written Black Tie, and I really had hoped, I mean, naively, but I had really hoped that we were going to move from $7,000 to $7 million, you know, because Black Tie is this massive story that, you know, has a lot of effects in it and everything. And Julie and I were like, well, we're going to concentrate on this, but we'd like 4 bottles. So what do you want to do with it? And I had met a producer director team at Soho, and I said, I think we should give it to them. It was 2, Annette and Jenny. And they had a short that made it into the festival, and they're good filmmakers. And I was like, I think this would be great for them, and we can help them make it, you know, produce it and whatever. And so I wrote the opening, you know, I wrote the first draft, and I came very quickly, and I handed it off to them, and they said that they wanted to concentrate on their own stuff. Mm-hmm. And so Julie and I went to a bar, and we talked about it and said, let's just make it, because Black Tie is just way out of range.
I love how you guys just are like, let's just make it.
Yeah. I mean, but that's, you know, there were, at the time, I'm sure it's still happening now, but at the time we were meeting so many actors who couldn't find any work, that were just making their own stuff, just so that, 1, they were keeping busy, but 2, to show people what they were, you know, what they could do. Mm-hmm. I know there's a better way of saying that.
Something that I think is really interesting about the Four Bottles movie is when you see the lighting and you see the cinematography, it does not look budget, which kind of throws you off. I'm like, this is definitely an indie movie, but it doesn't feel like an indie movie and I think that can, I don't know if that drew a confusion or not, but it's like, this feels like it's big budget. Why haven't I seen this movie yet?
Yeah.
Because I don't know, it's just probably because your expertise, you can, you see the shots a little better, but it was not budget looking, which I think was, that is the opposite of Kevin Smith. I think that was a fantastic choice.
Thanks. There's a couple of technology has really come a long way in regards to. Camera quality, image quality. Marcin Capron, who was the cinematographer. He just knows what he's doing. He's been doing it for a long time, and we met on a short film called Sketch, and got along. And I told him about the movie, and he had downtime, and he said he'd shoot it. So we used, I think we used Canon C300s with some great Zeiss lenses, and we had Brian Saxon, who was one of the producers, has a 1-ton truck, lighting equipment.
Oh wow!
We were, and he's a friend of Julie's, and we were very fortunate. And then we had good locations, and that always helps for so you're not like killing yourself in regards to production design and so a lot of things just came together.
Now, hearing you talk about the cameras and hearing you talk about the equipment, I sense a little bit of geeking out over it.
Anything you obsess over is geek.
Oh man, when I was shooting, and I was mostly shooting with a Canon 7D for the web series and stuff like that. But you still, regardless of whatever you're shooting with, you still have to solve those production problems. The camera's not, camera's going to make everything. I think it was Hitchcock who said that my camera's not going to lie. You could have the best camera in the world, but if you don't light that scene correctly, it's still going to look like crap.
Yeah.
And so the stuff that was coming out back then, you could get a C100, a Canon C100 for $4,000 or something like that. But you could shoot reality TV with that. It was, and this was before 4K, and it was, it was like, it was crazy that something that was, that's this big, that the brain is this big, could be, you could have a dozen of them so that you could shoot multi-camera television shows.
Right.
That to me was nuts. And so I had a buddy who had a C300, and it was sitting in his apartment. And he said, "Yeah, you can borrow it." And we rented a second camera so that, because our production schedule was so tight, so that we could do some double coverage, and it was great. But they're fantastic. You could shoot a feature film on a 8 or 9 year old, solid 1080 camera right now. Netflix and other streaming services want 4K quality,
right.
And so, that bumping up from 1080 to 4K might be a huge problem, but you can still do it.
It's possible. Well, let's talk a little bit about, because we are iHeartGeek and we do love our geekdoms, and whatever you geek out about, of course, is considered a geekdom. So for instance, we just got to listen to John geek out about camera equipment for a minute there. What are your other favorite geekdoms? Are there any that have inspired some of your writing that you've taken cues from? I know you and I have talked about the Whedonverse quite a bit.
Sure.
But you mentioned a while ago that you're into comics as well. What are your comic geekdoms?
I was a big comic. This is going back a long time ago. I don't have the money for comics anymore, but I had a massive. My dad got me into collecting, and I had a massive collection that I had to get rid of because I'd been, after he passed away, it hurt but I had been carting around about 10,000 comics for over a decade after he passed away, and I couldn't do it anymore. Um,
What would you say was your most valuable
no,
issue in there?
I don't know if I had like I still have an X-Men 3, number 3. It's not
Oh,
in the greatest quality, but I have it. You know, I had plenty of stuff, and the guy who bought it knew he was getting a deal. But if I had that collection now with the grading that they're doing,
hmm
Mhm.
it'd be worth it. It'd be worth a small fortune. Um,
Wow.
but you're also spending a fortune just to get them graded.
yeah,
To
I
me,
get
it's
it.
just not worth it. But you know, he got my dad got me on that path of comics, and I that's where I went to school for at School of Visual Arts, was to become a comic book illustrator.
Really.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this question, because it sounds like you're more interested in the stories than the value.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So with that being said, what do you think about the move to everything moving to digital? And nothing's valuable, but you at least get the stories now. And I'm a big fan of it, because I can't cart around 100 long boxes anymore. I just can't do that. What's your thoughts on it moving to digital?
Well, yeah. I mean, you know, first off, we have a finite amount of trees. You know, and the way, I mean, I'm not going to get into any of that, but I don't I I think it's great. I think as long as everybody's getting their fair share, I don't really care what the medium is and how I'm
hmm
reading it. As long as the creators are getting their money.
Oh, they're doing
Right.
better than they used to do.
Yeah.
Are they
And so
really?
Oh yeah.
and so you know, I still have all my you know, I couldn't get rid of graphic. I got rid of comics, but I had just a massive collection of graphic novels, and I was like, how much would it cost for me to get these again if I sell them now when I might want them in the future? And the number was ridiculous. And I was like,
Yeah.
I just have to keep these.
Mhm.
So reading paper, I mean, is great, you know, but like I'm dying to get the gallery edition of The Dark Knight Returns. I don't know if you've, so it's a
Oh yeah.
massive,
It's mad. It's
massive
about
book.
that thick. Yeah.
I'm dying to get it, and it's a printed the size of the original art, and
hmm
Oh,
that's
wow.
not something you can experience digitally.
No.
But if I wanted to just read the Dark Knight Returns, I would be happy to just read
Yeah.
it on my iPad or whatever. So yeah, as long as everybody's getting their money,
Yeah. So since you brought up the graphic novel thing, I feel like I can learn a lot about somebody with this question. What are your 3 favorite graphic novels?
oh, um, so okay, I have a favorite and best are two different things, right? Because
Mhm.
the best are going to be Watchmen and The Dark Knight Returns. From Hell is up there, you know. But like,
Really? Okay.
but if you're asking me just
Personal favorite.
my
Personal
favorites,
favorite.
you know, Hard Boiled is one of the best things I've ever seen.
Mhm.
It is Geoff Darrow's uh, work is just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Take the story out completely. I could look at that guy's artwork for the rest of my life and just be amazed. Um, let's see. Dave McKeon's Cages is awesome.
You're pulling out
Right?
some deep cuts. Outstanding.
That 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 series is just to go from Sandman to Signal to Noise to Arkham Asylum, which is for me the best thing that's ever been. That would be my third is Arkham Asylum. Yeah, his work is you know, he's the only artist I've got left that I'm dying to own an original piece by. Um, I think. Maybe him and Jeff Jones. I mean, I don't own a Miller piece, but I don't think I'll ever own a Miller piece. McKeon is he's hit him, and so Miller went from Daredevil to Ronin, which was a huge leap in style, to Dark Knight Returns, and then reinvents himself again with Sin City,
which is fantastic.
It's his leaps are just they're unbelievable. McKeon went from Sandman and all, and then all of a sudden he made this leap to Cages that was just it was slight, but it was definitely an evolutionary leap, and it's gorgeous. But Arkham Asylum is the pinnacle for me of comic book art.
So you got some great taste. That's outstanding.
Thanks,
so
man.
let me ask you one more question, and then we'll wrap up.
Okay.
And as a filmmaker, I want to ask you this: if you could take any comic book story ever, what would you want to be the one that could take it to screen? Which one? Which one?
I don't know. I mean, if I could take it to small screen count,
sure.
Electra Assassin.
Oh,
would be but I mean, you're talking about like the budget of both
a Marvel budget
and Infinity. I mean, because it's such a, oh my God, that series is just, that's the second. It goes Arkham Asylum, and then Sienkiewicz's work on Electra Assassin is just perfection.
Outstanding. Okay, we're just about out of time. So, real quick before we get out of here, let us know, how do people find all your work? Because I have a feeling the people are going to start checking out your work on some of this that haven't found you before.
Instagram, it's StylesJP, STILESJP. Twitter is just J Painz. My website is wordsfromhere.com.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that.
That used to be Words From Here used to be a site for screenwriters after the first Project Greenlight happened.
Gotcha.
And and then Vimeo, it's Vimeo/StylesJP for, 4 Bottles is up there, and Stuck is up there, 5 a.m. is up there.
And how do we find your book?
I think I've got a special, I think it's Amazon.com/John Painz, I think.
With a Z, correct?
PAINZ.
Yes, with a Z.
I'm wondering.
No, that's not it.
Oh, that wasn't it? Okay, never mind.
Well, we'll make sure that we post it.
Yeah, but it's definitely you can just look up Blue Upstate. I'm the only John Painz on the internet. So, you can probably
look in the description. I will have all of these up in it. And thank you so much for your time, John. This has been fascinating. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Until next time, I'm Dub. Here with Satomi and John. Keep on geeking on, guys.
You have been listening to the latest episode of the iHeart Geek Show. Make sure you visit our website at www.iheartgeekshow.com. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And if you check us out on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And keep on geeking on to all of you geek rock stars.